Hello there, welcome back to another episode of Strife's Talking Points, and today we're going to cover a story I came across this morning, tried to do some research on it, and I came back to it. That is the breaking news. 72 Philadelphia police officers placed on desk duty over offensive social media posts. This actual article here is from NPR directly, and they've been quoted as a source by multiple other organizations, so I'm going to use their original story and go from there. The Philadelphia Police Department has pulled 72 officers off their regular duties as authorities investigate inflammatory social media posts revealed in a database that found thousands of offensive postings by current and former officers, the city's commissioner said Wednesday. And as I begin this, I have multiple sources here and actually some of the Crime Watch information from Philly. So for the video, if you like this type of thing, you want to have these kind of discussions, you want to hear this kind of information, please like, share, subscribe to the video so I know that's what people are looking for, these in-depth conversations. Also comment how you feel about the story as well, because not all this story is just going to be the reading. There's going to be some conversation to be had on other topics. The police officials in Philadelphia are describing the actions as the largest removal of officers from the street in recent memory. We are, quote, "We are equally as disgusted by many of the posts that you saw and in many cases the rest of the nation saw," said Philadelphia Police Commissioner Richard Ross. Now, here we go. It is the latest fallout since the advocacy group, the Plainview Project. Now, I cannot show you the stuff from Plainview, a lot of these posts that are on there. Google it, the Plainview Project, go through it. There's a lot of stuff there that you may want to see. Some of it is really kind of upsetting. Some of it is not. It all depends on your personal point of view, how you react to things. And I would recommend you check that out. Earlier this month, released thousands of Facebook posts and comments by current and former police officers that range from racist memes to posts celebrating violence and messages containing Islamophobic themes, among other offensive material. Basically, there's just a lot of stuff there, which is one of the reasons I can't show you it here, because even though I am the TinySoup channel and no one at YouTube has ever noticed me, if I post some of this stuff, I'm sure it'll get flagged and come back around. All right. In Philadelphia, Ross said Wednesday that at least several dozen of the 72 officers now on desk duty will be disciplined and others will be fired, but he did not provide specifics, including any of the names of those who've been taken off their regular duties. So fallout from this is actually going to lead to the terminations of several officers. Some of them are resigned, of course, for desk duty. And like I said, go check that out. We've talked about the onset of how disturbing, how disappointing, and how upsetting these posts are, Ross told reporters at the police department's headquarters. They will undeniably impact police community relations. Now, I'm going to scroll down a little bit down here to more about the research project. The research project tracking officers' use of social media flagged offensive material posted by about 2,900 current officers, and some in supervisor roles, and posts from hundreds of former police across 8 police departments. So don't think this is just in Philadelphia. There's other cities, Dallas, Phoenix, Chicago, which I believe is where the project is out of initially. The database, first reported by BuzzFeed and Injustice Watch, was taken by Philadelphia lawyer Emily Baker White, who compiled the trove of posts in an effort to examine whether the online behavior could undermine public trust in police and make it more difficult for officers to work with minority communities. Now, in Philadelphia, the black population outnumbers the rest of the population. That is one of those easy statistics you can look at. And even though they are nationally majority in Philadelphia, that's the largest group of people. I've looked that up before. I was trying to verify that when I was looking at population for another story about Philadelphia over the shootings we had last weekend. After looking through the posts, Ross said he had some of the bigoted content will indeed compromise confidence in the city's police department. This, quote, this puts us in a position to work even harder than we already do to cultivate relationships with neighborhoods and individual groups that we struggle to work with or struggle to maintain relationships with now. Ross said, noting the postings tarnish the police department's reputation. Now, one of the things they're doing here is additionally anti-bias, anti-racist training will be conducted across the department, and officers will be reminded of what constitutes appropriate behavior on social media, according to Ross. On a side note here, for you as an individual, Facebook, most social media will be used against you at some point in your life. If you post something that someone finds offensive, you know, not directly what these police are doing, but if you post something that's offensive to someone else in 5, 10, 15 years down the road, and it's still there because of the internet, how it works, that will come back to haunt you. And this is one of those things people need to be made aware of. I have a Facebook page. I post almost nothing on it ever. I don't comment on things. I don't like things. I just have Facebook because, I don't know, it's just one of those strange things. I have an Instagram as well. Don't post anything in it. Don't like anything on it. I just look through the pictures and move on with my day. Gonna skip forward just a little bit here. This is actually leaving the NPR story and going to the BuzzFeed story, one of the initial groups that released this. The Plainview Project shared its research with Justice Watch, a Chicago-based nonprofit newsroom, which discovered many officers who made offensive posts were also accused of brutality or civil rights violations. Of the 328 officers in Philadelphia who posted troubling content, more than a third, 139 officers, appeared to have one or more federal civil rights lawsuits filed against them. Based on name, badge number, and other corroborating details of that group, 100 ended up in settlements or verdicts against the city. So of the so about a third of the people that had posted these things had actual judgments against them. The Facebook posts were not specifically connected to the incidents that were the subject of lawsuits, though in some cases the officers were supporting conduct like tasers to seduce suspects that could mirror the kind of conduct raised in the complaints. So they're not specifically using it, but it is one of those things where you kind of have back and forth. Now, I do know right now, from other information I've found on this topic, that Philadelphia has actually hired a lawyer themselves to go through, a law firm, to go through these posts presented by the officers, the stuff the officers posted on social media, to verify if their stuff violates their First Amendment rights. Now, as a public officer, they would have their own First Amendment rights. However, if they're violating their own agency's policies and can be tied back to aggressive, angry behavior, then I do believe they'll be removed overall. As they've already stated earlier, they do plan on terminating some of these officers for their conduct. Now, in here, this is a crime map of Philadelphia, kind of overall. I was going to do a story a few days ago on actual shootings in Philadelphia where the escalation of violence in these areas, it seems to be ramping up. Last year was down a little bit. Homicides were down, violent crime was up by a few percentage points. This year, however, year-to-date homicides victim as of June 19th, today, there have been 153 homicides. That's up 9% from last year, year over year, and you do see it's higher than 2018, 2017, 2016, 2015, 2014, 2011, all the way back until 2012 when Philadelphia had a massive wave of violence. And that was noted in some of the reports I've seen how this escalation was there. So far they're on track to have a pretty decent increase year over year, and one of the more violent years in the last decade. And that is this year. Over the weekend there was some graduation. There was a graduation shooting, and police were talking about how the culture that's in these communities is don't talk to the police, kind of deal with it yourself. We're seeing this. Well, this has always been a way. You think in tribe, out tribe. You think in group, out group. You think I'll protect my own. I'll defend my own. I don't know what you'd say, get revenge. You would take things into your own hands instead of using the police. And it could go back to where these police posts this overall community feeling is why they're not getting the information from these communities directly, is because they are being mistreated. These people are being too aggressive. They are basically doing the wrong thing, harming their own ability to do their job because they're upset, they're angry. I don't know. That's a question I always want to pass off into the audience there. Now, here is a little map here. 561 shooting victims in the metropolitan Philadelphia area. That is for this year. These are not all homicides. These are all shootings. So you have 153 deaths, 561 shooting victims. Now, I'm always going to break it down by the two major groups. 460 of those shooting victims are black. This is, again, direct crime within communities that the police generally have an issue solving. When you move it to white, Hispanic, you see it's a very much smaller number. When you switch it over to fatal, this hasn't quite yet updated. There you go. On this date here, as of June 17th, there were 110. As of June 19th, 153. This must be including part of the county on the other study here. Officer-involved shootings. This is always something I like to bring up kind of there at the end. Out of all these shootings, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 officer-involved shootings. In each of the shootings so far, there have been no fatalities except for one person who shot himself. I didn't go through a lot of these stories here. I did look up some of them. Wounded back in, that's March. Wounded. Another one was not wounded. One person apparently killed themselves, not injured, and wounded. So you do see that all these led to an arrest, except for the very first one, where apparently the person got away. And in those incidents, no officers were wounded as either. I don't know. What you're seeing here on the officer-involved shootings is pretty wild to me. When you go look at, I believe this will give me the right report. Age is always the one that really does get me. You look at the age of the people. I am an older person. I have moved past my 30s into my 40s. So I would be up here into this 10% of the 10% of the shooting victims. I'm moving slowly and more out of it. However, you do see when you break into teenagers, just call that 40% between 26 and 40, and 37%. So roughly 76% of all shooting victims are between the ages of 18 and 25, or 18 and 40 years old. So people in their prime. It's almost equally split between the 18 to 25 and the 26 to 40 range. 91% of these people are men. This is generally responding through gang violence or whatnot there. And on this racial graph, if you can actually see the graph, you'll see that predominantly this Philadelphia has the black population is the majority population in the city, and you do see the size of the crime by race there. And again, 80% of these are non-fatal. However, just over 19% are fatal. And this is just one of those things where I just wonder is or does the there's some posts there, shouldn't really show that. Do these social media posts point to a bias? No, they already say they have a bias within the police department because everyone has an implicit bias. But are these would going through these social media posts clamping down on those officers, moving them from, let's say, active duty to desk duty to more investigative work than actually out policing the community? Would that help? What are your thoughts? What are your ideas? I would really like to know, because this stuff is very important to the overall conversation of the country and how we move forward, how we deal with issues. So please like, share, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think below. And as always, have a good day and thanks for listening.